If somehow tomorrow I woke up and I was the CEO of Microsoft Gaming, this is what I would do to save Xbox. My strategy for breathing life back into Xbox is pretty simple, and it only has 3 components: console, IP, price. And those are the 3 things I'll talk about here in this video. The first place that you have to start is you need a badass console that people are excited to buy. You can't put out some mid-tier piece of shit garbage that gets by okay on some games, and we're playing 1440 or 4K even at 30 FPS. No, that is not what people want. If you have played one game on PC at 144 frames or higher at 1440, like it is a life-changing experience. And then whenever you go back to console and it's 30 frames a second, I mean, that is unacceptable. Gamers like having cool technology like this Asus ROG thing here. There's something about buying hardware that feels cool that gets people excited. And it's not a coincidence that when Xbox was at its peak, the console wars were also at their peak. And then Sony just kind of realized, yeah, we figured this out. And Microsoft, I don't know what they were doing. As cliche and dumb as it sounds, you need the console wars to come back. And to make that happen, you need to put out a console that competes with or just eclipses the PS6. It's got to be a badass machine. And as CEO, what I would do, this is going to sound crazy, okay? You need to put together an incredible gaming machine that will be relevant for 7 to 10 years within its console generation. And that's probably going to cost you about $1,000 to manufacture it. Like Microsoft will have to pay $1,000 even at mass scale, making all these consoles in their factories. It's still going to cost Microsoft about $1,000, which in theory would then put them on par with like a $15-ish $100 gaming PC. So a mid high tier gaming PC. Microsoft needs to sell that console, that $1,000 console, at a $250 to $500 loss. And they need to sell it wholesale off of their website. So that means you sell your next Xbox console, whatever that is, this fucking awesome rig, this amazing looking box, for about $500, and you take the L on every single one that you sell because you have dug yourself into a hole so deep with a really, really unexciting ecosystem and product catalog that you have right now. And people don't have a reason to play on Xbox compared to PC and PlayStation. And if they want to do Nintendo, why would you invest any money in an Xbox Series X when you could just have a PlayStation and have way better titles that are on that? I know that sounds crazy, but if Microsoft has the money sitting around to just blow on certain acquisitions like the Activision Blizzard and the Bethesda, like if you've got nearing $100 billion to just essentially burn up and get almost nothing from, $500 losses on 50 million consoles is $25 billion. That's a lot of money, but that is the size of the hole that I think Microsoft is in right now. And it's going to take something like that to actually get people excited about gaming. So that's where I would start with the console, is look at the PS2's success, and it's not unprecedented here to sell your console at a loss to get people back into your ecosystem and provide them a product that's actually exciting, that people are proud to have on their entertainment center, and something that kind of reinvigorates that. Yeah, I have an Xbox. Would you buy a PlayStation? Oh, that sucks, dude. My thing's way better. That doesn't exist right now. It's just all PlayStation. The second point on the list here is IP, or intellectual property. And what Microsoft needs to do is basically clean house with every executive or creative director that is involved in giving the okay on the storyboarding and concept art, early stage, final stage of how are we putting out Halo in such a bad state? Who okayed Starfield? Who saw that and said, this is good. This is what people want. Whatever's going on there, get those people out. And you need to take these franchises that you own now, Halo, Gears of War, Fallout, Diablo, Warcraft, Starfield. I mean, you have so many incredible franchises that you're doing nothing with. You need to take those IPs and make good games again. The blueprint is sitting right there. Make another StarCraft. Make StarCraft 3. Bring people in who worked on that game and other people that have real experience in RTS games. Build that out. Consult with pro players of StarCraft and consult with the most passionate members of the community in Reddit forums and in different parts of the internet. It is a lot of work, but the path is right there. You just have to put man hours and resources into this, and you'll be able to get something great out of it. Same with Warcraft. Give us a new Warcraft game. Whatever's going on right now in the development of the next Elder Scrolls game, I would just delete all of that and kick Todd Howard out of the building. Todd, thank you so much for all the hard work you've put in over the years. And I know this is your baby, but your prime is a decade past, okay? We need somebody else in here who actually understands the state of gaming in 2026 and is not so set in their ways as you are, because we don't have faith in you anymore. It's not working. And so thank you, but it's time to move on. On top of that, with all these IPs that Microsoft owns, there's no reason why we shouldn't be experimenting with more spin-off games. A good example of this, and I've pitched this idea before in other videos, I think it'd be fun to take the Team SWAT game mode out of Halo and make it its own standalone game that is a competitive esport that would compete with Valorant and Counter-Strike. You don't need to reinvent the wheel. You just copy those games, but in your own flavor of Team SWAT, in Halo, all of the equipment and guns, it's already there. Just use these IPs that you have and start to populate new games in categories where there's opportunity. What was the game? It was StarCraft Ghost, that for years was this mysterious project that people thought was going to come out like 15, 20 years ago. That never happened. You could do a third-person shooter and you're playing as characters in the StarCraft universe. You can do narrative-based single-player games in the Warcraft universe. You could go to Miyazaki, who's the game director for the Dark Souls series and Elden Ring, and say, hey, I know you're working on this title right now for the Nintendo Switch 2, but whenever you're done with that, we're going to throw a shit ton of money at you, and we want an Xbox exclusive Souls-like, but it's set in the Fallout universe, and we're going to use all of the lore here, all of the guns, all the weapons, all the enemy types that are already in this world, and we want you to have full creative control to just make a masterpiece in this universe. But try things, try new stuff. Stop doing the same thing over and over and over again, and then wondering why people don't want to play your games. I don't actually think that most people are super loyal to a franchise or a brand. I think most people want to play what's fun. And when you see all these new titles popping up, these new franchises that didn't exist 5 years ago that now have a massive fan base, it's because they're good games. And you don't make fun, exciting, unexpectedly good things if you're too scared to be a little bit experimental and throw some money at some stuff and see what happens. How many studios could you have funded? How many studios could Microsoft have funded with the $75 billion that they spent to acquire Activision Blizzard and Bethesda? $75 billion. That's so much money. Let's say that a game cost $500 million to make. That money could have funded 150 different studios with a $500 million budget. That is crazy to see how little has been done with those titles that have been acquired and the amount of money that was spent. That's wild to me. And the third point here is price. I think that not every game is worth $70. I think a lot of games are worth $40 and other games are worth about $20. And it is important, I believe, that Microsoft embraces this and really start to determine, okay, if we're going to be publishing certain titles, we're going to be funding these studios so they can make Xbox exclusives or Xbox Game Pass, Windows type games. How big do these games need to really be? Do we need to have a big open world Halo game that costs hundreds of millions of dollars? No, probably not. What if we have a linear story-based campaign and a really solid multiplayer? What does that cost? Okay, then we can charge whatever that is accordingly. And then if you have gigantic huge epic games that come around once in a generation, sure, $70. There needs to be a little bit more variety there, because when you look at what's been extremely popular over the last few years, I don't think it's a coincidence that Palworld, Helldivers, and Arc Raiders all have been cultural phenomenon, and they're cheap games. People have no problem just throwing $40 at something because it's popular and everyone else says it's good. $70, it's a little bit more. Let's say you sell 1 million copies of a $70 game. So that's $70 million. What if you sold 2 million copies of a $40 game? $80 million. You've made more money. I mean, and you've got to try more stuff. Be more experimental in the way that you approach game prices, game scope. Does our game need to be unlimited in size and cost trillions of dollars? No, it doesn't. Okay, rein that shit back in and price it accordingly. Along that same line, it is insane to me that Xbox Live, or whatever it's called now, still costs money. What are we doing here? What is this, guys? I feel like Microsoft just does not respect their customers and has not in a very long time. Because if you go play on PC, you realize, oh yeah, this is just free. I can just download Steam. I can download whatever game I want and then just hop into a multiplayer game. It costs nothing. It's free. And Microsoft implemented Xbox Live a while ago at the inception of the service there for online play. And at that time, it may have made sense because server costs were high. But now online play is just part of gaming. And to charge a subscription fee for that when it's not entirely necessary, that's just another example of, I think, being out of touch with what most people want and think is correct. They're forced into it now. If you have a PlayStation or an Xbox, yeah, you have to pay, which is honestly, it's just bullshit that that's even the case right now. So I would drop that, get rid of that shit. Back in the day, a big selling point for PlayStation was, yeah, it's free to play online. You know, it's not as good of a service, but it is free. If you flip the tables on PlayStation, hey, Xbox Live now, or whatever it's called, free to play, free online play for any game. That would probably help a lot. Now, this might sound kind of hypocritical here, but I think if you're making Xbox Live free or the online experience free for Xbox, then you up your price a little bit on Game Pass, but you make the service really appealing for a lot of people. Get rid of all your tiers for Game Pass and just charge one price that has everything included, make it competitive. And I think a lot of people would not have a problem paying $30, $35 a month, $40 a month, maybe, if you have an incredible library of games. And if a lot more games are $40 and you're seeing that price point often, you're like, well, I was going to buy that game anyways. And if I spend $40 on Game Pass, I can play anything I want. But you have to incentivize people with good products within Game Pass to actually want to do that. And finally, this is a big one for me, because our console is so great. Like I mentioned earlier, it is such a badass machine that people are so proud to have. All new Xbox consoles will have a disk drive. And that disk drive will allow for backwards compatibility of all previous titles. If you have a disc, Xbox 360, Xbox One, whatever. We embrace this library of games that our gamers have spent their money on and they still have, and you can use all of those on our machine. And we have figured out how to make the emulation work, and it's a seamless process, and you can play all of your games on this console because we're done nickel and diming people. If you want an upgraded, rescaled, remastered version of a game that came out on the original Xbox, hey, we'll sell that to you on the store, or you can play it within Game Pass or something like that. But generally, we are going to make this awesome machine a really, really gamer, customer-friendly platform that makes you want to come and spend your money with us at Microsoft here on Xbox. And you're never going to want to leave because the experience is so great.